A BFE and RFE must be flood resistant, that's for when you do repairs or new.
And it's two, that's right, they're allowed. You know, but you got it. Didn't have it to the land.
Right, but that's changed something, it's got to be
Unless
that.
it's a pre-firm, right?
Right.
And then pre-firms are kind of iffy now too, because the new language, not just for us, but for all the way across the board in the technical bulletins is that you can't add to the non-conformance, which means that if you're repairing it now, like on these side streets, you gotta use the right stuff.
So any repairs, okay. That's what, I thought that's what it meant, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anybody that has a flood, I mean, if you think about it, anybody that has a flood, if they use some materials other than flood-resistant materials, just throwing away money.
Well, for real.
Right.
Because the flood comes again.
Yeah, it's gonna, really, yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
Any other discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. So I fill in this statement here. The statement in motion was adopted by a 4-0.
Yeah.
I'll let you fill that in, Jan.
All right, and you got to take into consideration the consistency statement,
Yeah, that's right, okay.
okay? And that's what you just did. Are you saying that y'all read, you need to state that you read and you understand the consistency statement and take it into consideration?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I read it.
Yeah, you approved the ordinance,
Right.
but then you need to approve this as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does everybody read this over?
And basically what that says, those sections are the sections that go to protection of the dunes, protection of the environment. That's what those sections are.
On that,
We're not doing anything with the ordinance that would impact that. Actually, there's no changes to the ordinance at all.
and this is on the frontal dune thing?
And this is the,
No,
when we
This
just
This
did.
is on the NFIP.
Okay,
The frontal dune, we're gonna get to that, it's a whole different monster.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody read that over and agree with the consistency statement?
Yeah.
And do we need to pass that? Motion to pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to make a motion to accept the consistency statement.
Anybody want to do that? I'll make the motion to accept the consistency statement.
Okay, second that.
All approve?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. Done with that. Okay, so now we'll move on to the frontal dune. Let's see what the other thing says. Yeah, so look at the frontal dune.
Okay, the frontal dune, we got a couple things we gotta do there with the frontal dune. You wanna take this one?
Because we did this before. We
thought we
worked
did
on this
this.
last year.
Did we not do this before?
Yeah, what's happened is that, this is actually a staff initiated. Okay, the last one was sent down here by the board, with basically looking at moving it into the land use section, so that people could get a variance.
Right.
And we did look at it, we did talk about it, and it was decided not to do any changes to it at the time, and to leave it where it was at. Okay, that's what we did, we never sent it back, we just kind of looked at it. This one is staff initiated, and I'll give you tell you what it's about. Is that, when I got here in 2010, the early parts of 2010, January, one of the first things that I took notice of was this section in 94.03, and of course the different topography for the beach. And the part that particularly stood out to me was that there was a deadline for any sections of the walkway that would pass the town's frontal dune that was more than 4 feet wide. And in that section, it was written in 1999 or something like that, and it was stated that all those sections were supposed to be gone by 2003. Well, like so many of those first days when I got here, there was a 12 by 12 section sitting in the middle of the ocean beach out there. The tide was coming in under it, had 6 by 6 round, 8 by 8 round creosote poles sitting out there by itself. And then every single time somebody made application to repair their walkway, we had a non-conforming use, and we'd have to make them tear those things down. Well, this is 2011. And it appeared to me that none of them had ever been made to go away. And in this particular section, they were supposed to go to, if I remember correctly, when they were supposed to go to the manager at that time, I think. And that's who was making the decisions or something like that. But anyway, it never got done. And so from 2011 until 2014, every single time the ocean took one away, it couldn't be built back, or every single time somebody came in here to make application, then we would make them take them down. And a lot of times there was nothing wrong with them. A lot of time, and then to exasperate the problem, in 2018, the Building Code Council and the state legislatures decided to exempt pickets and handrails and decking boards from the permitting requirements up to 40 grand. So now, we got people out there who are tearing walkways apart, right, that have these non-conforming things on it. So we gotta stop them if they start messing with it and tell them they gotta tear it all down because it ain't supposed to be there, right? But yet they're started work on the people's property under the legislative rule, not understanding that the town has a law that should have been enforced in 2003. Everybody should have got a letter. It was only oceanfront. Everybody should have got a letter. It could have been like we do. Every storm could have went from one end of this beach to the other when this ordinance was put in place. They got to make a list of every single one of them, send them a letter, and a month later went out there and found them, and a month later, and in 6 months they would all been gone. But they didn't do that. And so what they did was they left it to the future staff to fight with every property owner. And here we are, 20 years later, 21 years later, and some of them are still out there. Well, the history is this. The history was that we used to make people take their walkways all the way out because we didn't want the escarpments to cut through the dunes. That was the history. Then a storm came. And us forcing everybody to take them out there, it created two problems. Problem one was that we made them go out there and spend their money. Problem two was now the town's got to deal with all the debris. And then they got to answer, because guess what happens when a storm takes away your walkway? It usually changes what? The high water mark in the dune. So now, not only did you lose your investment of that walkway, right? You now lost the ability to even go out to where you were. So you lost the length and the money. Town was required. So I'm assuming that the town didn't want to deal with the debris no more from everybody I've talked to that was here. They also wanted to solve the problem of having people, make people go out there. So what they did was they said, well, if that's the case, then we'll do this knee-jerk reaction of where you can no longer take them by the toe of the town's funnel node, which means you're going to be limited in length, right? And if you got anything more than 4 feet wide out there, you got to take it down now. They weren't willing to enforce the second part of that, and the first part's always been enforced every time we got a permit. And so staff is left in an adversarial position every single time somebody hires a contractor that's not from here, that goes out there and starts tearing their walkways apart, thinking that he can repair them, and then staff goes out, they stop them, and guess what they got out there? They got one in 4 foot wide sections that can't be permitted. We've had 2 or 3 cases, 2 cases of that in the last month. Yeah, it happens on a regular basis. So guess what happens when we stop them? We have to stop the work. We have to tell them they can't get a permit. Their house is tore apart. Rental season's coming up until they tear down that walkway, that 4 foot wider walkway section they had out there since 1985. So the next thing, you know, is the obvious. Jana needs to be fired. I should be fired for hiring Jana, and Carrie should be fired for being in the office next to me. But, you know, we should be fired because it's our fault. I mean, these debates happen, they happen, these real things.
Oh, I can
show you the
imagine.
emails.
I can imagine.
So, I propose, and the other problem with that is that they don't have any avenue. This was put in a regulatory rule. It was a slam dunk at 2003, which means you're non-conforming now, which now you're in violation of another section of the ordinance. So, I propose now that that the planning board task us for finding a place to put it in the land use section, so one, that can be a variance. Okay? Two, that it says you can't have sections wider than 4 feet, take away the deadline. Right? And three, that you can take it all the way out if you want, if you choose to. Not that you have to,
Right.
but if you choose to. Because we wrote an exception in here for the west end, to be able to go all the way out because they had water and walking through the dunes and all this stuff. Well, the truth of the matter is that the same damage is being done from the 800, 700 block all the way down. And the only time this is an issue is when we got a dune system that's big enough that our town's frontal dune is way back here and the Camel's frontal dune is way up there. While Camel will allow it, we do not. So when you get to about the 400 block, it's not an issue because the town's frontal dune and the Camel's frontal dune is the same. It's not an issue. You're not going past it. The state says you're not going past it. So it's just not an issue. So I asked the board if we could bring it to y'all. I'm asking y'all to task the staff with rewriting it and bringing it back to you in the land use section. So it has a variance, so it makes sense, so that we can change it, so that we can give them options for the walkways. It will have nothing but a positive effect. And I don't know how many of them are going to go with mats if they ever get approved. But there's a lot of them that might start going with these blue mats when they get approved. But they'll have to be permitted, they'll have to have camera permits, and we'll have to write rules. We might as well go with it and do it now. And the rules really should be that if a storm's coming, you gotta roll the mat up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure.
Because my impression when we passed it before was that that we were saying you couldn't have the walkway all the way out because of the trash, when it became trash.
That's right.
You know, when it was,
But the reason we did that, the reason the town did that was because there were so many of them all the way out there. But the town required them to be out there. If you go back and look at the old ordinance. It's a knee-jerk reaction. What happened was, people put them way out there because they were told to, then the storm came, and then they couldn't put them back. So because there was so much debris. So the town had a knee-jerk reaction. You don't even need to be a rocket scientist to figure out what happened. The board member said, well, okay, fine. You can't go by the town's frontal dune no more. Then we won't have to deal with the debris. Well, the problem was not going all the way out. The problem was forcing people to go all the way out. Some people won't go all the way out. They won't spend the money. But I don't think these young ladies here or I have seen anywhere where I suspect that putting the walkway out did anything but help the dune system.
I agree.
Huh?
I agree. I mean, because I know that one that was at the last meeting, I mean, you can see exactly what's happened there.
Well, we could see that before.
We knew that was gonna happen.
The problem was is that if you build them right, if they build them right, they put a control board at the bottom of them, and what happens is that if you build them right, sand will actually build up on both sides of them. It won't build up underneath them because there's a tunnel that gets effect there that happens with the wind, and it blows the sand out from under. But we fixed that problem on the east end when we replaced all those down there. We had them hook boards to the top of the dune. Now the wind don't blow through, and the dune builds up under it. It's actually the opposite effect. Now we're having the dune come up in the boards. So it's our design of having to be 18 inches off of the top of the dune that's causing the problem. You know what I mean? It's not the fact that they're there that's causing that wind tunnel. Because I'm telling you, I had to put boards on them down there and it worked. They stopped that on the east end because you know we only got one dune now. So, this, so I'm asking you to task the staff, and when we come back to the next meeting, we'll have the whole thing in the ordinance form. And then what parts of it you like, you can keep, and what parts of it you don't like, you can throw away. And that's what
Okay.
I'm asking.
So we're making a motion, I'm gonna make a motion that we task the staff to rewrite this thing on Frontal Dune and bring it back to us,
And put it in the land. use.
and put it in the land use thing. Get a second on that?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
approved? All opposed? Passes unanimously. But that makes sense, though, that,
Well, what don't make sense is people don't have a chance.
Yeah.
It puts us in a bad position.
It does.
right, I mean, I can
Because
see.
when it's in the regulatory thing, you're going to district court for getting a ticket or missed your charge of crime. Truly, it's all a crime since 2003.
And they couldn't get an adjustment if they wanted to.
Yeah, they give no option. And we're issuing permits. We're issuing permits to the people that have the ones that are 4 foot wide. We're making a list of them. If we can't get it fixed, then they'll have to tear them down. Because they've been having to tear them down since 2003, no matter if they touch them or not. So we're making a staff decision to hold off on any action on anything live in the court, unless it's falling down. And that would be the whole difference.
Would you address in that, who actually can do that work, whether it's in the ordinances or whether it's under just the state code? Where a homeowner can do his own work on his rails and walkways.
Well, they can, if it's less than $40,000, they can. They could be their own contractor too. If it's $125,000, they can still be their own contractor. But they'll have to fill out that form, and that form has to go to Rob. So, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah. But if it's less than $40,000, anybody can be a contractor or unlicensed contractor and do the work. If it's over $40,000 and a homeowner wants to do his own work, then it's got to be his primary residence if it's attached. If it's attached. And everyone's attached. You know what I mean? So, they have to follow the contract line. We can't put that in here. Huh? We can't, but that is state law. And we catch it. Yeah, when they go out, people go out there, you see I see it on Facebook all the time. Anybody know a handyman? Yeah, I know a handyman. I need my walkway replaced. And, they got real cheap soon. What was it we had one the other day? We see all kinds of
I
things.
saw one a couple days ago.
We saw a swimming pool this morning. It's being replaced for $285,000.
Whoa. Somebody's gonna pour concrete on one of the canal streets for their driveway. I saw a couple days ago, somebody was wanting somebody to recommend somebody to pour concrete for them for their driveway on one of the canals. I'm like, oh my God, no.
Well, I monitor them, I do.
I don't know where it
I
was.
monitor those things, and I've called a couple of them.
I'm like, if that was allowable, we all have concrete driveways.
Yeah. But anyway, that's probably one, and see, the other thing was, y'all laugh, but my techniques of catching people come from a lot of experience. And I was coming across the bridge this morning, all the concrete trucks going, oh shit. I can't even use this anymore. Because DOT is, repaving those sections
Oh,
with
yeah.
concrete
True.
and fixing the sidewalk. But any other time, I come across that bridge, I see a concrete truck.
Hey, where is it going?
There's nowhere over here you can use it except for under a house, during a pour. And when I see a concrete truck coming, I'm looking. I'll follow. I followed one of them one time to a good friend of mine who was building over here. Cost him $10,000. Putting in grade bins, allowed.
I laughed to hear this. I can't remember the name of whoever that was that posted it, but anyway, she was saying that people were trying to tell her she couldn't do that on Canal Street, and she said, I'm not asking y'all, can I do it or can I not do it? I'm asking for recommendations on somebody to do it. And I'm like, go ahead, you fool.
Yeah, anyway, so.
All right,
We got one more item.
Yep.
the decorative lights. Lights used to enhance the appearance of an area rather than to provide illumination. This includes Christmas lights and low voltage, less than 60 volts, driveway and landscaping lights.
Okay. When we redid this ordinance, we kind of messed up a little bit when we did one of those, pulled one of the town's deals that I rail against all the time. We put part of the ordinance in the definition and gave an exception in the definition, which we now have taken out. Let's see the original. Oh, yes, Christmas, there we go. Anyway, the 92.30 definition says decorative lights used to enhance the appearance of an area rather than to provide illumination. These include Christmas lights and low voltage, less than 60 volts, driveways and landscaping lights. So what we did was we gave a definition, which talked about Christmas lights. And then we had the current ordinance there. When you read it, it talks about decorative and safety and security lights, more than 15 feet and all this stuff. And it made it hard to enforce Christmas lights on the ocean front or any other time because they were actually allowed for a certain period of time. So what we did was we realigned the ordinance, we made the proposal for the ordinance, and it says that it shall be unlawful for any outside lights to be installed or directed. And then what we did was we took decorative out of B, and C we did away completely, and then D we've added any decorative and unnecessary oceanfront lights during turtle nesting and hatching season from May 1st through October 31st. So basically what it amounts to is that you can't have any lights on the oceanfront lots. It says safety, security lights or other lights on the south side of oceanfront homes which are set with automatic timers and may not posted. So, and this could get changed at the board because one of the board members don't think there's any lights out there. But we believe that this is the best alternative. The idea is to limit lights that cast off the property at all times on the ocean front. And then make sure there's no lights out there at all during turtle season. And this original ordinance was written by they had input, turtle people, whatever that is, turtle control. The original one. So if there's anything in there that you think should be changed, then the whole idea was to make sure there was no real lights that would cast beyond the residence on the ocean side of structures.
So are you leaving that that definition though for decorative lights?
Yeah.
The beginning?
Because,
No?
yes, we are.
Okay.
Because it says that, so you can have a decorative light, you gotta remember what it says. It says, if A says to interfere with the vision of an operator of any motor vehicle or any street or waterway or cast any amount of direct light more than 15 feet from the footprint of the residence with the exceptions of light directed into a pool area. So we're trying to keep the light on the property, and then if you do have some decorative lights or Christmas lights, then they gotta be less than 60 volts, and,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And be,
Right.
low illuminated. They can't be anything that's gonna have a bright light to it. Well, you're not gonna be able to go out and get them Christmas lights with them bulbs that are that big around and string them down your walkway, which is what we've had a couple of years. And then say they don't cast any light because of color. When I can turn into the 400 block and see them at the 800 block, they're clearly, out there. You know what I mean?
You just want to take all of our fun away. You just want to take all of our fun away at
Yeah, but
Christmas.
see, you can have a safety light out there that's low voltage that's on the walkway. It says you can have it. You know what I mean? But it cannot cast off of that thing, and it cannot be bright. You can't wrap your whole every rail with a Christmas light. timeframe. That's what we're trying to stop. We get a lot of complaints. I guess people just don't like Christmas lights.
The Scrooges.
Well, I mean, I guess if you want to, where I live, I go outside and look up at the stars. Somebody cut some trees near my house, and now I can see lights at the ball field, and I want to shoot them on. They're 3 miles away.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Some people just don't like light. I'm not living in the dark.
So what do we need to do? We need to, accept the ordinance with the proposed revisions? Is that,
Yeah,
if
because
we,
this is regulatory, we were asked to bring it to y'all, for y'all to review, and then we've got to carry it to them. You won't get a consistency statement here because it's not land use, it's
Right.
regulatory. But they asked us to bring it, we asked them if we could bring it to y'all for review before we carry it back. So if y'all want to look at it, review it, and then talk about it at the next meeting, we can do it again. If you got better ideas of that kind of thing.
So it'll start out with the definition and then the
Yeah,
last
if you
page.
go-
Put together like how we.
Yeah, if you go to the last page,
That's
you
what
can
it'll
see
look like.
revisions look like. In other words, we took out the sections that we said we were going to do. So y'all can send it back to the board the way we have it, or you can review it and bring it back next time.
I think it looks good to me.
Yeah, I don't know, we make any changes,
Yeah, I
recommend
wouldn't,
it on?
I mean,
Make a motion to send the final ordinance revisions up to the board.
second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. Any comments? Motion to adjourn,
So move.
second?
Back to normal meeting next time.
Of course, they don't meet till the 30th though, so. The next board meeting, commissioners meeting is April 30th, so that means we won't meet until May then, right? Or what?
Well, it's April 2nd, so.
So we won't meet until the end of May, or will we meet after their next meeting since they changed their
We're bringing
meeting?
anything back to you? We're bringing
Yeah, that one thing.
we're bringing the 94
Uh-huh.
stuff back to you, so
Yeah.
you'll probably meet on the regular meeting.
So we won't meet till, so we would actually meet
Does
then
that fall
before
on
they
the
meet.
23rd?
23rd?
Yeah, our next meeting, yeah.
So we'll meet the
So we should be
23rd
able to
then.
meet.
Okay,
We'll have the stuff ready for you for 94.03.
okay.
Okay. Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Good.